Hi guys, sorry I was off camera for a second. My plug was making a noise, which scared me. House explosion, bad idea. Anyway, welcome to Tuesdays Nights Live. I am here. It is Tuesday, and so it is time for the Tuesday night experience. What is going on, people? I'm here for your questions. I can tell you a few things. One is that I have been so puffy the last 2 days. My shirt feels very awkward. Everything feels awkward. Super puffy. Don't know what I ate, did, experience that causes the puffiness, but something makes me not happy about said thing. It's weird because I went to the gym, I took a selfie, and the fattest thing on me looked like my face. I don't know what's going on. Yeah. See, there you are. It's a welcome to my mind. No matter how far we go in this world of self-reflection and improvement, it may be that we have that day that we feel like that about ourselves. The good news is I don't feel like it reflects about me as a person anymore. I used to really think that, like, depending how I felt about that, it really, really felt like I just felt like good or bad about the world based on if I felt like I was like a few pounds heavier or lighter. Anyway. Hey, Deborah, thank you for that. I appreciate you saying that. I'm like, I did a recording of a video earlier today with Nisha Berry. She's so pretty. Being side by side with her, sometimes I'm like, yeesh. I am I'm a little older. I'm so hard on myself. Anyway, appreciate y'all. Welcome to the Tuesday Night Live. If you'd like to talk about something other than my face right now, I would appreciate it. I could share something other than my own personal feelings of self-doubt. Anywho, Stacy says, I don't even want to go to work. You're not feeling so good? I'm sorry to hear that, Stacy. Hey, Beck, glad to have you here. Hey, Selena, glad that you could make it with your kids' schedule getting better. Hey, Cheryl, welcome to Keto. You said you're new to Keto, and I am super, super happy that you're here. I'm happy to answer any questions you have about going keto. If you don't know, I have a podcast. And on that podcast, I have things like how to start keto as episodes. So go check it out. It's called Keto Life Support. It might be helpful. Selena says, my husband's muscles are naturally leaner than mine, even though I can lift 2 to 3 times. These are going fast. 2 to 3 times he can. So you can lift 2 to 3 times heavier than your husband. That's pretty amazing. Congrats. This is an accomplishment. My boyfriend is a little smaller than me. Like, he's very compact, except he's got I always say he has soccer kid legs. He's got these tree trunk legs, kind of a smaller upper body. Really nice booty. Say, put your boys in soccer if you want their girlfriends in the future to appreciate that. Was that inappropriate? Maybe. Sorry. But he can lift so much more weight than I can. Anyway, he's very efficient. There's this guy at the gym. I talked about him before. I found out his name's Jonathan. He's very sweet. And he is like teeny, like not teeny, but he's like lean. He looks like a runner, right? He's got that runner build where his legs are real thin. He's just thin. I mean, he doesn't look skinny, but he just looks like naturally thin. He is naturally thin. And he can lift so much weight. Like, you like stop and look because he's lifting so much weight. Some muscles they don't get bigger. They just get stronger. So we're all in different bodies, and it's good to talk about it. Anyway, Amy says, I think hold on, my arm. I have a keto mojo. My keto reading is always under 1. 0.3 is normal for me. It rarely goes over 0.6. What's considered to be a good range? Great question. I would say some of us just naturally have lower ketones than others in terms of what beta hydroxybutyrate level is happening. I really wouldn't worry about it. Base your how I'm doing on other things. How's your health? How's your weight loss? If you're still trying to lose weight, do you feel good? Do you feel energy? There's really no reason to chase high ketones at all. That you're showing any ketones shows that you're not in a high insulin state. And that in and of itself is a fabulous thing. That you're not. Kizzy, I would love a video on how to break a stall. I've tried everything, but weight will not move anymore. I have plenty to lose. All right. So I will say for me, the way I had to break my stall was to go on a reverse diet. This is not a quick fix. This is a 6-ish month experience where you have to really stick to it and reverse some of the metabolic adaptation that has happened. So what happens to a lot of us, and I can't say this is for sure you, but my guess is it might be, we get to a place where we eat less, we push. And then over time, our metabolism just adjusts to the fact that we're not eating enough for a very, very long period of time. And we have to fix it. We have to reverse that. We have to start eating more slowly, eating more to a place where we get to heal some of the hormones that we've put in the crapper, a little bit suppressed. We have to adjust our metabolic rate, and then we can kind of chill out for a while, stop trying to lose weight for several months, and then you might be able to see some more fat loss. So for me, what ended up happening was I lost, I don't know, the numbers are all screwy at this point in my mind, but I lost about 60, 65 pounds initially going keto over the first 1.5 years, then stalled out hard, stayed stalled for a long time, started to regain some weight, stall, regain, hung out about 10 pounds heavier, maybe 15 at times. And then realized I just couldn't keep doing this, went into a year of not trying to lose body fat, went into a year of rest, rejuvenation, restoration, reverse dieted, worked on other things, worked on my sleep, stopped trying to lose weight, tried not to gain weight, but stopped trying to lose weight, stayed on my macros, stayed on my keto, stayed conscious about food, relearned a lot of things, and then was able to fairly easily, I mean, with that, some effort, obviously, but fairly easily lose another 35 pounds, at this point, 40 pounds. And so it was like 20, then 15. So it's gone down. But over the past 2 years, I've lost over 40 pounds as I did that process. So, but I had to go to basics. I had to go to baseline. I had to fix some things. So, more restriction, more cutting, more fasting, not the right thing to do. You got to go in the opposite direction for a while and reset your body. That's why, I mean, it is true. Like a lot of people will give the advice, oh, I stalled out, I stopped losing. So I started doing fast, right? People will say that. And then it's like, okay, so you went from like averaging 1,700 calories a day to, if you average it out for the week, like 800 calories, then you went from 8 to like 4. And like, it's just, you're going to end up really tanking your whole everything about yourself. So I'm not against fasting, but the answer is rarely harder, faster, more when you're dealing with a metabolism. Just going to say. Okay. Well, Leslie, glad to have you here. Part 2, says Cheryl. Do I stick to macros, count calories, fat? Okay. I think you were the one who said that you were new. So, I would say your first couple of month or two, just focus on getting the carbs down. Just one thing at a time. Don't overly restrict, just do the carbs. Then you can start to look at, once you get really fat adapted, which means your body gets good at using fat for fuel, then you can look at a short period of time of maybe restricting the total calories, making sure you're getting plenty of protein to see a little more fat loss. And then you kind of go through periods where you come back up to eating more, then you eat less, then you eat more. You just cycle through and you'll be able to see body fat go down usually. Docs and Gal says, hello, I watched some old lives. I wanted to watch more of your content. Well, I'm glad that you were able to do that. Some of them are kind of old. What happened? Ask Nurse Cindy. She's still around. She's speaking on the Low Carb Cruise and a couple of other events that I know of. Nurse Cindy has a full-time job. She is a woman who has a job outside of the keto world. And so there are times when she can't devote as much time to making videos or doing events or things, but she tries to stay real active when she can. So I think she might be focusing her events more on her actions more. Words are not my friend. She focuses more. I think she might be focusing a little more on live events right now, or what she can fit into her schedule, but she's still around and still in low carb. She looks amazing. You should check her out. Tally said, so I purchased a CGM. I found I get hypoglycemic at night. Why would that happen? Well, I have a question for you. Are you finding that there are times you get hypoglycemic, or it's just super low all night? Because one thing I would like to just warn you about that happens to me is if you roll onto your CGM, it artificially shows low blood sugar. So it's like, if it's on your arm and you press against it, that it's not getting the proper flow of interstitial fluid that it needs. And so it mistakenly thinks that means that your blood sugar is low, when it's literally just like the supply got cut off to the monitor. So first, I'd like to say, if you see like really weird drops, it's probably that, not that you're truly hypoglycemic. So always check that out. If you're just saying like what you see, like you fall asleep and then all night it's pretty low, I think we have to look at like what our body really needs. And maybe I guess it's more about the differential. Then the other thing is, are you checking to make sure that the CGM is accurate? Because, some CGMs will run 20 points low. So where maybe you're hanging around 60 at night, which is low, but fine. And it says 40, that's very different. So you got to take those into account. Kathleen says, good evening. Any suggestions on what could be the reason someone is not losing in the abdomen? So the abdomen, so I have this thing. So your abdominal area can be broken into two parts. So the waist up is the android, and sort of the waist down is the gynoid. And which makes more sense in women, right? I assume it's called the same thing in men, but so it kind of depends where the weight is hanging on, but I would probably guess it's more the gynoid, the lower belly. And that is a metabolically healthier place to have your weight. The android, which is android. Yeah, I think it's the android. Yeah. Is for a second, I was like, that sounds weird. For me, it's like actually this upper belly area is the leanest part of my body when I look at my body composition, and then the lower part is the highest body fat, and that's more normal, like for a female, in terms of fat storage, and it kind of depends. But unfortunately, you cannot spot reduce fat loss. Your body takes it off where it wants to take it off. If you have fat in the belly area, it just means that your body fat is still high. Unless it specifically seems to be cortisol related. There is this one condition, which is high cortisol, that does seem to deposit more belly fat. And so you would look at like, how's your stress level? Might it be a cortisol issue? Hey, Debbie in Santa Clara. Hey, local. Terry asks, where am I speaking? Sorry, I saw the next one. It made me laugh. In 2020, 22. What year is this? So it's so the next speaking event is going to be in April 15th, I think, in Utah. I'm speaking there. Then in May, I'm not speaking at Metabolic Health Summit, but I'm going. So I'll be just attending that one in Santa Barbara. Poor me, Santa Barbara, right? And then I'm speaking on the Low Carb Cruise, which is going out of Orlando mid-May. Missing my boyfriend's birthday for that. I'm not a good girlfriend. He doesn't really like his birthday. He's not a holiday celebrator, so he's okay. Then I'm speaking. I think the next event I'm speaking at is Orlando. Back to Orlando to speak at the Keto Summit Orlando in August. And then I've got some events coming up in September, but they haven't been announced yet, I don't think. So those are my speaking events coming up. I'm also going to be on some type of online summit, but I don't know when that's coming out. Selena says I look like a Scottish lady getting ready for the Highland Games. Go, Selena. I like some muscle on a girl. I've got some, so you can see. Can you see it? Can you see when I do that, my muscle goes up? I've also got this, which is just the leftover skin and fat. But I'm like, look at the top part. Yeah, all right. Tracy said, did you hear that Sarah Hallberg of Virta Health passed? I did just hear that before the call. It's very sad. So Sarah Hallberg, for those of you that know, Sarah Hallberg, she has an amazing TED Talk about type 2 diabetes. It's gotten it moved a lot of people to low carb. She worked for Virta Health for many years. She's like the right hand of Stephanie on that. She did a lot of groundbreaking studies. She did a lot of talks at events. I found out about 4 years ago, I guess, that she had lung cancer, which was a shocker for her and for all of us. She never smoked. And she fought really valiantly and just passed. She's been honored this year as the low carb pioneer at Metabolic Health Summit, and they gave the award before the conference because I think everyone knew that she was probably going to pass soon, and so very, very sad. She has 3 beautiful children, and she's done amazing work in the world of low carb, and we can just hopefully be thankful for the contribution she's given the world with her studies and her work and her efforts. So, but it's very sad news, very sad news. Sky says, when we do not have a lot to lose, about 30 pounds, is it generally harder to see weight loss? Yes. The less you weigh, the harder the weight loss will be compared to you. You can't compare to another person really, but the less you weigh, the harder it will be. I'm having a devil of a time seeing any loss at all after nearly 60 days of accounting for everything. So if it's been 60 days and you're not seeing any results, definitely that's the time I would do a deep dive. I would really look at what I call an energy audit. How much am I eating? How much am I using energetically? And what adjustments do I have to make to try and goose the fat loss? So, okay, I wasn't sure if Cindy was speaking at Salt Lake, so there you go. She's coming up there. Holly, 12 a.m., 3 a.m. Don't know what that was referring to. Let me see if I can find what I missed. Oh, I see. So it happens at a certain time of night. My memory, not good. Swiss cheese brain. So between 12 a.m. and 3 a.m., you notice that. So that might not be the rolling onto it thing. If you feel fine and you are, experiencing generally good blood sugars and your blood sugars are not waking you up and you're not having negative consequences, I don't know that it's really a problem. Certainly if they're, above 50, 55, I would personally, by the way, I'm not a doctor, nor do I give medical advice, but, in the low carb world, that's not crazy for short periods of time. Krista, could you give a brief description of your program that starts April 3rd? Is it full? It is not full. It is still open. I expect it to be open until Friday at least. Yes, I did not pay Krista to ask this question. So it's called Keto Unstuck. It is specifically for people who are stuck, who are not seeing the results that they want. And it is a 90-day program, and we go over why people stall. We talk about reverse dieting. I help you find your maintenance calories and what your weight loss calories are. We definitely talk about calories. So, that's a departure for some people from their experience. But we really get into the nitty-gritty of analyzing what's going on with your body and how do we try and adjust things to fix it. There is a weekly call on Sunday at 3 p.m. Pacific time, and that call is recorded. So if somebody can't make the call, they watch it later. About half the class ends up watching it later. They get a lot out of it anyway. You can pre-submit questions if you want to. There's a Facebook group for all the questions you might have any time of day. And there's a course portal with lots of lessons in it. So it's a very comprehensive program. I even give you recipes, but there's no meal plan you have to follow. I want it to work for you in your life. So there are carnivore people in it. There are people that aren't even keto in it. It works for everybody. Same concepts apply. And it's a small group, lots of one-on-one help, but also sort of a group format to make it a little more affordable. It is $297 for the whole program. You can pay by month if you want to spread that out in 3 payments, because that might be too much for all at once. And it comes with a money back guarantee. If you don't feel like you got your money's worth, then I give it back. So I really want to make sure people feel like they're getting what they need out of the program. So that's kind of an overview. We start on Monday the 3rd, so a little under a week from now, and it is a 3-month program. All right. Thank you, Selena. I appreciate your admiration of my biceps. Andrea said, I think cortisol might be my problem. I can't sleep. I've tried everything to do except prescription meds. Yeah, prescription meds don't really give you sleep. They give you unconsciousness. It's a last resort kind of thing. I think the only time I consider sleep meds is if it's like a strange situation where like I just traveled and I need to not be dead the next day. And I kind of need to just get myself to like get through one night, and then the next nights I won't need it. If I have to use it for long periods of time, I just won't. There are some things I'm actually, so this is a funny one. I go to the same gym as a guy named Matthew Walker, who wrote a book called Why We Sleep. So between sets, I bother him with questions about sleeping. He's kind of a little bit of a mini celebrity. He has a podcast, the Matthew Walker podcast, and he goes into single topics on it. And in one of his podcasts, he talked about sleep, and that people who were trying to lose body fat, they did a study, and I looked at the study. It seems legit. They did a study. They put everybody on a diet. So everyone was trying to lose weight, and some of the people were sleep restricted, and some of the people were allowed to sleep a full night's sleep. The people that were sleep restricted, that was, they slept more like 4 to 6 hours than 6 to 8 hours. Everybody lost weight. So the people still lost weight when they were sleep restricted, but they lost more muscle mass than body fat, which is shocking and alarming. So yeah, definitely not something you want to do. So definitely working on sleep is a big deal. And it feels really shitty. Oh, sorry. I try not to swear. By the way, I try not to swear on a live. I am a little bit of a potty mouth. It's really sucky that it's like telling people, don't be stressed out, right? Like, it's like, thanks a lot. Like trying to not be stressed out about not sleeping, but trying to sleep, like it's endless cycle. So yeah, but there's a lot about sleep hygiene you can do, like stay away from screens at night, dim the lights, put in different light bulbs. Don't look at devices, don't watch TV, but like an hour or 2 before bed, read books on paper, dim lights. Your eating schedule. When do you stop drinking coffee? Like there's a lot of things you can look at doing, and I think they're all worth doing. Tracy says, my C-peptide has gone from 4-ish to 7.3. So both of those would be very high. I'm assuming you mean a high sensitivity CRP. A non-high sensitivity one, those numbers aren't different. It's not sensitive enough. So what I'm seeing is, again, I can't say because I'm not a doctor, but if your high sensitivity CRP tends to hang out around 4, that is in a range of which I might expect somebody to have an autoimmune condition or a food sensitivity. And so going from 7 to 4 is not really surprising. You want to get that CRP. By the way, not CRP, C-peptide. I struggle with high C-peptide because I have a hidden autoimmune disease. Like I have all the symptoms of autoimmune disease, but they can't figure out what autoimmune disease I have. And so I struggle with my C peptide. Wow. I can't. This is why I'm confused, because you said inflammation and C peptide. All right. CRP is about, I sound like a ditz in that question, answering that question. C peptide is not about inflammation. C peptide is about insulin production. CRP is about inflammation. So if your CRP, if you meant your CRP, then what I was talking about counts. If you meant your C peptide, then those are incredibly high numbers for a C peptide. So I am confused. I would expect somebody with a C peptide that high to be eating an incredibly high amount of carbohydrates. That means your body is pumping out a lot of insulin. So Tracy, do you mean CRP or do you mean C peptide? I'm sorry that I'm so confused. Are you still there, Tracy? Because you can help me untangle what just happened. So I'll just explain. So CRP stands for C-reactive protein. If your a high sensitivity C-reactive protein is a measure of inflammation. You want your high sensitivity HSCRP, you want that to be below like 1. If it's in the 4s, that means you have and it's chronically elevated, you have something causing chronic inflammation in your body, which is often an autoimmune related issue or a gut related issue because perhaps you're regularly eating something that you are sensitive to. So if you meant CRP, fluctuating between 4 and 7 is perfectly normal for being a baseline 4. If you meant C-peptide, that's something different. April says, I can't wait for Unstuck. So glad you're in it, April, and Lisa too. Marie, where do we find information about your program coming up? Let me grab you the link. Hold on. Oh, no, that's the wrong link. Hold on. I'm in the wrong place. It's not. Here it is. Let's share. Share. Copy. I have to narrate everything I do, or I can't make it happen. So there is a link that I just put in the comments to the program. If you go there, there's information about the program, including how to sign up for it. So there you go, Marie. And then after this program, I'm going to put it into the header of the live. Selena, yeah, Why We Sleep. That is the book that Matthew Walker wrote. It's a good one. I like that. I'm like stalking him like between sets, like because you don't want to interrupt somebody in a set, so you're like waiting. Then you see him like, and I'm like, oh, I have a question. Hey, poor guy. He gets that all the time. Goniki says, watching this at 2:26 a.m. in Amsterdam. Oh no, you got to go to bed. I'm not tired anymore. I'm bouncing my bed. Yeah. Okay. You get the, if you wait too long. So what do they call that? The second wind. Your second wind is keeping you awake. Tracy said, oh, C-peptide is insulin. FML. Okay. So yeah. So C-peptide is not a measure of inflammation. So every time we make a molecule of insulin, we also make a molecule of C-peptide. And so when we have high C-peptide, what that's telling us is, for whatever reason, our body is just pumping out the insulin. So if it indeed is your C-peptide, then I would definitely look into that, because that is a very high C-peptide for somebody on a low-carb diet. So, yeah. Sorry, Tracy. Bearer of bad news. So Tracy, I don't know if you've ever gotten your fasting insulin tested to compare, but essentially what do the two different levels mean? So your fasting insulin tells you, after an overnight fast, how low does my insulin go? So let's say, you produce insulin when you eat, right? Or at various times, mostly when you eat. And so your insulin gets produced. You have a certain amount, it comes up, then it comes back down, then it comes back up, then it comes back down, like every time you eat. And then overnight, it's going to come down. So some people have a totally normal fasting insulin. Maybe it's like 8, a little high, but not that high. But then, their C-peptide is really high. And so what that's saying is you got good recovery. If you fast for 12 hours or 14 hours, that insulin comes down to a totally appropriate baseline. But, okay. Yeah. Fasting insulin is 18. All right, Tracy, your insulin is very high. And so that's what's being reflected. The like normal levels of being like 20 or 25 are BS. It's going to swear again. I'm going to try not to do that. Depending on what you're eating, Tracy, I'm going to say there are a couple of things. Carnivore might not be a bad idea for the short term. Clearly, your body is responding with a lot of insulin to what you eat. You really want that like 6 or under in terms of fasting insulin, and you want your C-peptide under 2. So there's a fair amount of difference from where you are. But one thing I would say is with these levels, if you are truly keto at this time and you're still seeing these levels, I'm curious if something else might be going on. And unfortunately, if your doc is happy with a 20 on the fasting insulin, then I wonder that if they would know to look for what I think you might need to look at. So I would say, keep a really good journal of what you're eating and what's going on there. It is something that you'd want to look at. I just wonder what's going on in the background. Tracy, you can private message me and we can talk some more, about like what you're eating. If you're regularly, no shame, but like, are you eating a lot more carbs? Or are you really keeping it low? Let's troubleshoot a little bit. Grateful Keto says, if I do a carnivore diet for 3 months as an elimination diet, I would think any food I reintroduce would cause issues due to the lack of appropriate, I'm going to guess you mean like appropriate enzymes or things like that. It can be true that you might not have the best experience the first or second time you ate something, maybe. Like if you stopped eating all vegetables and you reintroduce broccoli, you might get a stomach ache. But, within a couple of days that would adjust. The body does adjust. So I have had really good luck with elimination diets, and it's really about careful reintroduction. Keto Kelly says, good evening. So disappointed with my doc. Sorry to hear that. TSH and T4 is all she tested despite the symptoms I have. Basically told me nothing is wrong. So here's the problem that we run into with the thyroid situation is that I can tell you what your levels should be. I can tell you where to even get your levels tested yourself. But you eventually need a good doctor to help you treat it because the thyroid meds are prescription, right? So that's kind of a thing. That being said, you can get in 45 out of 50 United States, you can get your own tests done. Those would be, you'd want a free T4, you'd want a TSH free T4, free T3, and a reverse T3, and also Hashimoto's antibodies tests. There are 2 of them, the TG and the TPO. And so if you go to ultalabs.com, they actually have that panel available. Like you can order all those tests together, take it to any LabCorp or Quest, and they'll run those tests for you. You have to pay for them out of pocket. So you can at least get that information. If you, I think it might be iodine deficiency. So if you think it's iodine deficiency, you could always try supplementing with iodine and see if things turn around. So there you go. Goniki, thank you so much. I hope I'm saying your name right. Liz asked, have you had the experience of eating ketogenic, aka always having over 0.3 millimolars of beta hydroxy? beta hydroxybutyrate, and having fasting insulin go up. So reasons fasting insulin might go up: sleep disturbances. So to Tracy as well, if you are having sleep problems, it's all about sleep today, right? If you're having sleep problems, then that can raise your insulin. There are absolutely things that can raise your insulin. So you could look at what else might be going on. It's not common. I will say it is not common to have higher fasting insulin on a keto diet, but it can happen in small degrees. And I would say then you have to sort of investigate what other kinds of thoughts you're having, what other kinds of experience you're having around that. For some people, they might be having something called adaptive glucose sparing. Liz went from 7.5 to 9.5. Okay, the other thing I would like to say, don't freak out, is fasting insulin is noisy. What do I mean by that? This is why I always say test both your fasting insulin and your C-peptide. One day it's 7.5, one day it's 9.5, one day it's 10, one day it's 6, it goes up, down, and just a little bit, right? Depending on how you slept. So the first time you got it tested, it was 7.5, but it might have been 9. And the second time you got tested, it was 9.5, but it might have been 8, right? So if there are numbers that tend to fluctuate a little bit, it can be very misleading. We often want to believe numbers we think are good or baseline and not believe numbers we think are bad or follow-up, right? And so if anything, because fasting insulin has this fluctuating quality, I don't know that you really have gotten a higher average insulin because it is one reading. So I just want to talk you off the wall a little bit that there's just fluctuation. So you might have happened to test it when it was 7.5 on a day when it was lower than it usually is. And then a 9.5 was higher than it usually is. But maybe if you got your fasting insulin tested every day of the month, that first month you got tested, it averaged 8. And the second month you got it tested, it averaged 7.75, right? So it actually did go down, but you're just taking 2 bullet points, sort of like getting on the scale, right? All right, so 12, 8, 5, 4.5, 7.9, 7.5, 9.5. I mean, you do have some data, you're on it, Liz. You do have some data that's sort of swinging back up. So what's your blood sugar been doing at that same time? Would be my question. What's your average glucose in that same trajectory? What I would do is cross-reference the fasting insulin with your glucose reading and see if there's a matching trend or an opposing trend. And that's something you would potentially want to look at. Grateful Keto, I think I answered that question earlier, but let me answer it again. If you do a carnivore elimination diet, and then you are reintroducing foods, aren't you going to have that food be a problem because of problems with your enzymes? I would say it depends on the food, but for the most part, if you eat a small quantity of the food that you're introducing and it's only been a couple of months since you had it, you probably should be okay. One of the things I would say is any high fiber food, you want to go easy on. So when you're doing an elimination diet, the reintroduction phase is as important, if not more so, to do it well. And so with a proper reintroduction approach, then that won't usually be an issue. Nisha Berry actually has a membership that is very centered around autoimmune issues and doing elimination diets. So you might want to, I'll find the link and put it in the notes after the call. You might want to look into that because she does run elimination protocol things. All right, Liz. So your glucose went from 88 to 99. So if you match those trends, you've got what do you call it? You've got like a U-shaped curve. So that is something to pay attention to. One of the things that can happen to some people, oh, thanks, Marie. I'm glad to have you. One of the things that can happen to some people on a carnivore diet or a low carb diet is in fact something called adaptive glucose sparing, where your muscles sort of start to reject glucose because they're getting so good at using fatty acids. And one of the things in that case can be that being a little more liberal with carbs for some people can actually bring their glucose down. Now, when I say carbs, I'm not talking carby carbs. I'm talking like adding more leafy greens can help some people see a little bit of a mellowing of that effect. It's not common, but the fact that your fasting insulin was 88, you got your fasting glucose was 88, you got your fasting insulin down from 12, you might be having this adaptive glucose sparing effect, and you might want to do a little experimenting to see if going to 30, 35 grams of carbs from high fiber, slow digesting kind of carbs might change how your body deals with glucose a little bit. Additionally, if you're not lifting weights, making your using up more muscle glycogen can also be beneficial for people like that, because when your muscles start to refuse glucose, it hangs out in your bloodstream instead of in your muscles, and you want your muscles to be able to be a sponge for some of that glucose. So it's a specific situation. It does happen. It tends to happen more in lean people than people with still a lot of body fat, but I don't know what your situation is. Julie says, what if you have sleep apnea? I think the question is probably regarding how I said people need to work on their sleep. If you have sleep apnea, you need a sleep apnea device to help you actually get sleep. I do not recommend anyone with sleep apnea try and just deal. I know some very lean people who still have sleep apnea. A lot of people think, well, if I lose weight, the sleep apnea will go away, but it's not. For some people, it stays. While it is true that heavier people are more likely to have sleep apnea, lean people can get it too. It just has to do with the way your airway is built. And so if you have sleep apnea, you should have a sleep apnea device. I know you feel like Darth Vader. I had one for a while. I hated it. The benefits you will get from actually sleeping are enormous. So and sometimes you have to try a bunch of different devices before you find the one that works for you, but sleep is crucial. Marie, I'm so glad that you signed up. Thank you. Grateful Keto asking again, how would you know if it's bad for me or just temporarily symptomatic? It really depends on the response. So if you are doing that reintroduction carefully, you'd look at your symptoms, right? If you were reintroducing something like a fibrous carb and you felt like a little bloated afterwards, I would say that's probably just a temporary thing, because your body just doesn't know how to deal with a fiber at this point. If it was more like you got a rash, or you felt nauseous, or you got a headache, those more extreme symptoms, that would definitely be a sign of intolerance rather than just temporarily symptomatic. So the degree of which, as long as you're reintroducing things appropriately, like you don't want to go like whole hog on it. All right, what did I miss? Oh, thanks, Krista. I'm glad that you're going to join us for the program. I appreciate that. And it's going to be a fun one. It's always really super. So what I do at the end of the program is, hey, Rita, what I do at the end of the program, and during the program, like there's a lifeline call. I just had one with somebody today who just wanted to check in, just one-on-one, and she's doing amazing. She's lost like 221 pounds. She did the program a while ago, and or she did the program twice. She wanted to do it again because she had different issues. But she did the first time, she was losing a lot of weight the first time she did it. And even when she was like, I'm not even trying now, and the weight's just coming off. So I love those. I love those calls when people find effortless results. you know, and not all of us have effortless moments, I'd say, but when it does happen, it's really fun to hear about. Sky says, sleep isn't really an issue with me yet, but as I age, you're 70. I mean, that's amazing. I find I'm not able to sleep, not that you're 7, but you know, that you're not having sleep issues. I find I'm not able to sleep as long as I did when I was younger. That's not uncommon from what I understand. Actually, my boyfriend and I were talking about this last night. We're headed in your direction for sure. He's 51 now. So yeah, we're getting there. It does appear that some of us just need less sleep than we did when we were younger. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think what you need to look at is, am I waking up refreshed? Do I feel rejuvenated by my sleep? Am I not waking up in the middle of the night? Am I able to get to sleep relatively quickly? You know, when you lay down, you're not tossing and turning for a long time. So all of those matter. And so if you were like, I used to be able to sleep 8 hours, now it's more like 7, you know, that's not a big deal. I think if you're suddenly like, I only need 5, you know, that's something maybe to look at. But if all experience points to the fact that you seem to be rejuvenated by your sleep, that's not as problematic as somebody who wakes up feeling a little bit groggy and tired, and somebody who wakes up in the middle of the night and is not sleeping continuously and struggles to fall asleep. If you're not having those problems, I don't know that just a little less time asleep is as big a deal. What else is going on? So I'll show you guys. Now, this is not the way it's going to look when it's done, but I just did this at Kinko's to get a copy. But so I'm editing Dr. Barry and my labs book that we're going to put out. And so I'm like, oh, look, it's too tight on this margin. So I'm looking for those things, but we're very close to having this thing out on the market. And we're talking to companies about, you know, printing versus a digital download. So it's coming. It's coming. But, you know, sections like, what is a goiter? So why is it so big, Larry? It's this size because I made it this so that if people digitally download it, it fits on printer paper. So I wanted it to fit so that if someone ordered ordered it digitally, they could print it out themselves or just print a page themselves. And so because that was the market I was trying to make sure I fit it to, it made sense just to print it the same size rather than rewrite the entire book to fit on a smaller printer. But because I kind of figure most people will want the digital copy as opposed to the physical copy. So that's the reasoning. So if it was smaller, it would be thicker. So you can see it's not real thick. It's a quick read, but it does things like, you know, symptoms, what tests you might want, and then lab ranges. So things like that. So. And that way, because you don't really need to print the whole thing. You might just want to print the 4 pages that are lab ranges. And so that's why it's laid out like that. All right, so that's not done yet, but it's coming. A little sneak peek. All right. 7 hours, Sky. I think that's probably good. It sounds like you used to have a very long sleep cycle. Bev, can I recommend a bioidentical hormone? No, sorry, I don't know. I don't prescribe medication, so I don't know. I think for things like bioidentical hormones, you need to work with a really skilled practitioner. Because you need to make a lot of adjustments. Sandra said, I'm 66, don't need as much sleep as I did when I was younger. Yeah, it does happen. Rita, my vitamin D is very deficient. Could that mess with your A1C? Probably. I think that anytime we're super off in one category, it can totally mess with other categories. So, while off the top of my head, I'm not sure what the pathway is. It certainly is a possibility and something that I would want you to try to fix. Karen says the thyroid stuff is so worth it in and of itself. Yeah, I have a whole section on thyroid in here. Well, I should say we. It is a we, not an I. But we got the thyroid section. Yeah, so like even you go through and like each test, it's like, what is the test? What is it testing for? Just a very brief description. I was like, if you were trying to explain blood labs to someone who is not a doctor, how would you explain it? So that's what we got here. Anyway, I'm pleased with it. I was just working on it today, just for edit, typos and things. So there's a whole thyroid section, the tests you want to get, what the thyroid does. Sue says it's different lab information. So this is the same information that we've put out in a course form. We stopped running the course. We've updated some of it, but it's the general same information if you took our course. Sky, we're literally in last edits. We're hoping to have it out in the next few months. What is going on? Rita says, yes, I'm working on it. Doctor prescribed prescription D2. Great. Kimmy, what changes do you make when you plateau? My weight has been up and down, but no loss the past 10 months. I've restricted my carbs more, increased my daily activity, and fast 16-8. So the first thing I would do is an audit. Call it an energy audit. So what is an energy audit? An energy audit is when you look at, Karen, you look at how much energy is my body using. So what uses energy? Well, being alive in and of itself uses energy. So there's that base metabolic rate. And then there's from there, you've got, so that's just your baseline energy needs. Then you've got above that, how much activity you're doing. Then you've got like, how are your hormones and your health? So there's how much energy you use, and then there's how much energy you take in. So you try and look at both things and see how they're aligned. And in a general way of speaking, I'd say if you're not eating a lot and and you've been doing that for a while, it might be that your metabolic rate is very suppressed, is adapted to your low intake. So that can happen. So in terms of how do you fix a stall, it's like, well, how do you fix a car? First, you figure out what's broken. And then you need to figure out how best to fix that thing that got broken. So my first step when addressing a stall, and by the way, a stall is not 2 weeks, not even a month, but if you're getting up to like 3-4 months and beyond, you can do an audit and say, okay, what am I doing that could use tightening up? Am I tracking? What are my intake of calories? How am I moving my body? All these things. And then if you see that there's been a lot of metabolic suppression, like I'm not eating too much, I am getting some steps, I'm moving, I'm doing things. You put those things together and it's like, oh, it's time for a reverse. It's time to try and increase my calorie threshold. Or it might be, oh gosh, I didn't realize I was eating 2,700 calories a day and I'm only 5'5". So you can look at those kinds of things and evaluate. So what needs to happen to get out of the stall is really about how to fix or figuring out what's off. And to figure out what's off, you kind of have to do a bit of an audit. Andrea says, what about calories in carnivore? Calories are a unit of measure. So how many calories your body needs to function is highly individual. Some people, maybe on carnivore, might find that they are using a lot more calories than they thought they were when they weren't. So your rate of energy use might go up, but calories are still a unit of measure. So if you're tracking them, you can use them to look at as a data point. Not everyone needs to track their calories. If you are seeing success, doing well, healthy, happy, there's no reason to track your calories. If you are not happy with your progress and you are stuck, it is probably worthwhile to start looking at your calories. That's the way I look at it. And no, not calories by themselves. They're just one unit of measure among many. Debbie says, I only seem to be able to sleep about 2 hours at night, get up 3 times to use the restroom, sometimes not able to get back to sleep. You really do want to address that, Debbie. So talk to your doctor if you can about the problem of waking up and needing to pee. Julie, probably this is what Ken was talking about because we are working on it together. Susan says, what I have to remind myself is maintenance is not a stall. Exactly. Maintenance means you're maintaining your weight. Involuntary maintenance is what I call a stall, right? I am maintaining my weight, but I don't want to be. And I think I'm doing things that should make me lose weight, but I'm not. And so then that you have to fix the involuntary part. Karen, I am 2 years, but I haven't gained, haven't made more changes, even thought I would keep track, I would join, but I know myself, I hate tracking. Yeah, Karen, know yourself. And if it's not worth it to track, then don't join the program because the program would require tracking. And so it's a great conversation to have with yourself. Am I not unhappy enough to change my behavior, right? If you're like, look, there are some things I would like. If someone gave me $1 million, I'd be very happy about it, but I'm not willing to work anymore. The same concept, right? I don't want to work anymore. I'm not going to work anymore. If I was gifted with $1 million, I'd be super happy with that. But I am unwilling to act any differently than I'm willing to act right now to earn any more money. Same thing with weight loss. If you're not if you would like to lose more weight, but you're really not willing to do anything different to see that happen, it's a good self-awareness. I am not so unhappy that I'm willing to act differently. Great. That means you're relatively happy. And so, if it ain't that broke, you don't have to try to fix it. All right, guys, we're coming up on the hour. So I will say good night. I will say I hope I see some of you in the program next week, or if it's not for you, I'm happy for you to do whatever is working for you. So I will see you soon. Bye, guys.